Just a quick introduction of myself. I am a software asset management consultant here at Insight. I'm based out of our Plano, Texas location. I have been with Insight a little over 21 years, with a heavy bulk of that being in asset management and software asset management. There are teams here in the U.S. And we are globally in the EMEA and Asia Pac locations as well. So we assist our clients both in the North America as well as European and Asia Pac regions. And just kind of with that being my background, I'm going to kind of go into the next service that we were looking at was a client. They needed SAM managed services, and I'll define that here in just a little bit. But this client and that company profile was a healthcare company. They are just North American based. They had 24 offices within North America, approximately 67,000 employees, and you can see that they had 400 plus software publishers they were trying to manage in their environment. The reason for such a high number was they just had a challenge with being able to create an approved whitelist or approved list of softwares, as well as creating a blacklist of software titles that were not to be used within their organization, whether that be from a security standpoint or duplication of product functionality. They just were lacking the ability to track those different software publishers. So what was the kind of the story here? So this client, once again, similar to that first client, they had gone through significant changes in their IT staff. And the push was coming down from C-level executives that they had to start a Windows 10 migration. They had to do this as part of security as well as movement that they needed to move to Windows 10. That was really the push and desire for the organization in their tech roadmap. So one of the key items that they felt was deficient was they truly felt they couldn't identify what software titles were deployed in their organization, and they wanted to create some type of software catalog to understand what are all these different software titles so that they can understand where is that duplication of product functionality and what products could be potentially eliminated. So what was the next step there was, as they did this migration, they also wanted to make sure could these products also work in Windows 10, and could they potentially be migrated? So we actually provided a SAM managed service. So we actually have our own tooling that the client was able to provide us reports out of their discovery tools and additional tool sets that they have on site. So we're not changing up the investments that they had already put money into, but actually utilize those best and have the connectors so that those data sets can be presented in a tool. It's our enterprise license manager tool. It was uploaded in there so that we could actually compare what their entitlements were to what was deployed, and we'd actually have a hosted view for that so that they could log into the hosted environment, view what their overall position was from a licensing perspective, and they were able to understand where were they over-licensed, where were they under-licensed, where were software titles deployed if they wanted to filter at a machine level, if they wanted to look at a business unit or location level, so that they could understand where were these software titles deployed. And they had, with the tooling, they added what I would call IT efficiencies. They no longer were guessing or trying to find. They actually had a solidified single view to see where was their license position, where were products deployed, and so that they could then understand, what are the titles within their organization? What can be, they can take that next step and see, okay, what are those different product titles, and can we start reducing those duplicate products, and also best manage versioning of existing products. Adobe was one of those publishers that they had multiple versions of Acrobat Pro deployed, and they really needed to, they wanted to move to a singular or just a possibly two versions of a given product. And they wanted to understand what was their license position and maintenance to allow them to do so. These are just some of the facets of this client. But some of the efficiencies that they received was that they were moving from a manual reconciliation process. It then became automated. They have a view to understand what that license delivery is and management. They could deliver through the tool, so they didn't have to worry about that. They could scan these devices regardless of the delivery methodology, so that they could always see, okay, what available license do we have through available license pools when a request came in, so then they knew, okay, we have 40 of this product available. This request is already approved. We don't have to make a purchase. And they could say, okay, we can deploy and assign that license to that individual request. And they understand now they're down to 39 or whatever the volume was that was decremented, and see what their license pool was and see that audit inventory at all times. It's updated on a weekly basis for this client. So as devices are decommissioned or retired, those changes are updated on a weekly basis with this client. So being able to implement these license pools, it stopped the unnecessary purchases, it reduced overbuying, and so I utilized a Gartner quote here. It estimates that most companies are overbuying by about 14% of their spend. So if you have a $10 million software spend, 14% of that can be reintegrated back into it from a cost savings perspective. So it also gave them what I would say is a reduce of IT resources. They were actually able to touch other points within their environment in saving time, productivity, and just overall just cost and just trying to research many of the things many of the data points that were being provided in this managed service. So by able to have this single point of view, understanding where software titles are deployed, they don't have to research, they don't have to reconcile data sets out of their discovery tool. It's already being done for them, and they have the visual ability to visually see that within a singular tool. With having that additional efficiency of time, that allows also they have the ability to meter and understand what tools are actually being utilized based on user need. What I would say is it decreases those installs that a user requests but never actually utilizes, or a project is completed and say Visio and project were requested but are no longer required for that user moving forward, that once those users do not utilize that software for approximately 120 days, they have the means to uninstall and to reharvest those licenses. So it gives them additional efficiencies to make sure that they're not keeping installs active where they're not being utilized. So overall, this keeps costs, licensing, and deployment information reduced, and it's all aggregated by a singular automated interaction. And it's viewable by their purchasing, their licensing groups, their deployment group, management, as well as IT. So by doing so, it assisted them and gave them the efficiencies they needed to develop that standard catalog, reducing the number of software titles that are entering their environment. It gives them much better control and security. And then also what that did is that allowed them to move forward with more efficient negotiation with their license agreements, because they were consolidating those products under less agreement, and then thus showing more volume in those agreements to receive better discounts for a given publisher. With that being said, if there are no questions, I truly want to thank you for joining us today on this software asset management webinar. We appreciate your time, and thank you very much.